Welcome to the Art of Living Free series with Anthony Silard, brought to you by theartoflivingfree.org. Today we explore Dr. Silard's message to parents: don't squander your inheritance.
Hi, I'm Anthony Silard, and welcome to the Art of Living Free. Today we're going to explore a theme which I call don't squander your inheritance. It's a message to parents and others out there about how to preserve what we have while we still have it. So the basis for what we're going to talk about today is a Harry Chapin song that he wrote in 1974 called Cats in the Cradle. And the idea here in the song is that it's about a father who is too busy to spend time with his child while his child is growing up. And then let's see what happens from there. So I'm going to read you the opening lyrics to the song. My child arrived just the other day. He came to the world in the usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away. And he was talking before I knew it, and as he grew, he'd say, I'm going to be like you, Dad. You know I'm going to be like you. So that's the opening lyrics to the song. So why is that important today in the digital age? Well, it's not just about planes to catch and bills to pay anymore. It's about being distracted by other more immediate sources. Number one culprit, our smartphones. So we're on our phones all the time. How many times have you seen this, right? So you've got parents on their phones and the kids are like, hey, what do you think about this? Or she did this and he did that. And they're asking for our support in navigating the daily trials and tribulations of life, and we're too busy to help. So we're on our phones, and actually, this really came to a head for me when I read an observational study that was conducted by Jenny Radesky at Boston Medical Center. And what she and her researchers did is they went out to a number of restaurants and they observed families. And what they saw was that parents were completely absorbed by their phones much of the time they were having a meal. And while the parents were absorbed with their phones, the children would make these escalating attempts to get their attention. And the parents would get increasingly irritated and say, just a moment, can you see I'm looking at this? And basically be so absorbed by their phones that they weren't paying attention to their children. Well, the problem there, according to Radesky, is that children seek our support in learning how to self-regulate. And when we don't give them that support, they don't learn how to do that. That leads to a lot of dysfunctional behaviors. It can lead to alcoholism, drug use, self-harm, cutting, all kinds of other very dysfunctional outcomes for our kids and our teens. Let's look at what Jenny Radesky had to say about this when I interviewed her. So, according to Radesky, and by the way, she wrote the screen use guidelines for the American Academy of Pediatrics, right? So she's considered an expert in this area. She wrote, starting from the moment of birth, kids are really wired to be looking for other human faces and other human voices in real time to be learning from. They do it through their senses, through touching, and they really rely on adults, consistent, reliable adults that they have attachments with, to be able to learn about the world. So that's how children learn emotion regulation, self-regulation. That's how they learn to handle and manage their tempers, their anger, their anxiety. And we're too busy on our phones, which have become our comfort objects. This is what we use to manage the anxiety in the world. And if you think I'm overhyping this, then you should check a CDC survey from August 2020 that found that the average level of anxiety for an American adult has tripled in the last year compared to August 2019. Now, of course, the pandemic, the lockdown has a lot to do with that. The political situation has a lot to do with that. The uncertain economy has a lot to do with that. But if you look at anxiety, if you go and research anxiety, going back to Freud, going back to Rollo May, the existential psychologist, going to Richard Lazarus, the Berkeley psychologist, the people who have really done a lot of research on anxiety, the way to reduce anxiety is through connection. And so what do we do with our kids? We are trying to connect with others through our comfort objects, and they don't have a comfort object, and they're seeking it from us, and we're too busy to provide that to them. So I think this is just patently unfair. Now, I don't think the solution is to go get our kids a smartphone when they're 5 years old, or even when they're 12 years old. You know, Bill Gates didn't even allow his kids to have a cell phone until they were 14, right? So that is not the solution. And why not? Because in the long run, do these things really comfort us? In the long run, let's take a look. What's happened since the advent of the first iPhone in 2007? Suicide has skyrocketed. For the first time in US history, the teen suicide rate is now higher than the teen homicide rate. Loneliness has skyrocketed. It's gone up to over 60% as of January this year, even before the pandemic. So loneliness, based on the UCLA revised loneliness scale, skyrocketed. Self-harm, if you look at cutting, especially among girls and young women, it's gone up between 2009 and through 2015. Those 7 years, inclusive of 2009 and 2015, you're seeing an 18.8% increase in self-cutting incidences among girls ages 10 to 14. So self-harm has skyrocketed. So all of this since the advent of the first iPhone in 2007. So we have to ask ourselves, like, is this comfort object really providing comfort? In the short term, perhaps. In the long term, it doesn't look like it. So where did I get this idea, don't squander your inheritance, this message I have for parents? And I'm a parent also. We have 2 children, ages 7 and 4, right? I make these mistakes too. Like, I'm not this perfect father who's never on his phone. There are times when my kids are trying to get my attention and I'm on my phone. And so basically I'm saying, like, whoever I'm texting with here is more important to me than you in this moment. And you know, there are occasions where that's actually the truth, right? Like in a moment, maybe there's a crisis and I need to spend a few minutes on it. But what I've learned is how to regulate my use of this phone so that I am more engaged with my children. We collectively, as a society, we need to man and woman up and play our role in that conversational duet, which is what Jenny Radesky calls it, that conversational duet between parent and child, so they can form secure and solid attachments with us, so they can learn how to self-regulate, so that when they go out into that wide world out there, they're going to make wise decisions for themselves and be able to, and not just know what to do when it comes to managing their emotions, but do what they know. And that takes practice, that takes a conversational partner with a caring, reliable adult, and that's what we have to be. So we're here in California. My wife and I are having, it's our date night out, right? And so, which are few and far between, right? So we're really enjoying it. We're out at this Mexican restaurant, and there is a family at the table next to us. It's a mother and father and 3 kids ranging from about, let's say, 12 to about 7. The youngest is a 7-year-old girl. And meanwhile, the mother and father are on their phones like the entire meal. Like, they're just literally, you know, I'm like, why are they even going out to eat, right? Like, they're just there on their phones the whole meal, okay? And 2 of the children, the 2 older boys, they're on their tablets, they're gaming, surprise, right? So they're playing their video games. And then the youngest girl, who seems about 7 or 8, she's got her phone. And it was just like, it just melted my heart. It was so hard to watch this. But for like an hour, I just couldn't help because they're right there next to her. Like, she's there, and she would like sit there, like put her hands on her chin and look around at everybody who's on their devices, and then have this like sad look. And then she'd pick up her phone and start doing a few things, and then put it down and have that sad look again, looking around. And at the end of the meal, the only thing that the father said the entire time to any of his kids was, like, he gets up, they've paid the bill, and one of his sons is engrossed in, you know, Fortnite or some game, I'm not sure what he's playing, and the father just like barks out to him, like, let's go. Like, that was the interaction, right? And so I wanted to grab this guy, like, I wanted to grab him by his shirt and just say, like what are you doing? Like, you are squandering your inheritance. This is the greatest gift you've ever been given in your life, to have children. Many couples want to have children and are not able to. And you've got these 3 beautiful children, and instead of developing this relationship with them, you're just leaving that potential on the table. You're just letting it seep out of your hands. And you know, my anger toward him was also my anger toward myself when I've been in those moments. And my anger toward our whole society, that so many of us are doing that. And we need to adjust. We need to course correct. So you know, watching that really gave me the idea for this idea like that we have this inheritance, this great treasure that some of us have inherited, and we have to protect and preserve and develop that treasure, which is our children. Well, let's look at the last line, the last verse, sorry, of the Harry Chapin song, okay? I've long since retired and my sons moved away. I called him up just the other day. I said, I'd like to see you if you don't mind. He said, I'd love to, Dad, if I could find the time. You see, my new job's a hassle and the kids have the flu, but it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It's been sure nice talking to you. And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me, he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. And that's the sobering ice bucket on our heads, which is that, and the wake-up call, which is that the way we treat our kids is later going to be the way they treat us. The time we invest in them, if we're lucky, will be the time they invest in us when we need them. Right now, we lead and they are following. Soon, they will be leading and we will be following because we don't have any other choice. And so if we let them grow up without any practice in self-regulation and managing their emotions, then you can just guess what kind of dystopian future awaits us. We as parents, when we're spending time, so both quality and quantity time with our kids, we should really be present. As Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese monk, the founder of mindfulness, when I heard him speak at the Warner Theater, Washington, D.C., again, he asked 10,000 people. He said, so what's the greatest gift you can give to the people you love? And everyone is silent. And then he said, to be fully present. So that's the greatest gift we can give to our children, to be fully present.
Life offers us many challenges, and the artoflivingfree.org offers new ways of thinking so we can see these challenges from a new angle and overcome them. Whether it's Anthony Silard's free blog, video or podcast series, his book, Screened in: The Art of Living Free in the Digital Age, or personalized courses, the artoflivingfree.org will help you refine your life vision and then transform it into action. Find out more at theartoflivingfree.org.